Boomer is a whopping 17 years old. His birthday was just on September 15th. Now in the wild, it's very hard out there for lions, and male lions don't normally live past 9 to 12 years old. So Boomer is a bit of a super senior. In human years, that would be equivalent to being in his 90s. Now these guys are of course apex predators, carnivores. They've got incredibly sharp teeth, a lot of super senses to help them track their prey. But in the wild, unfortunately, they're not doing all that well. They're considered vulnerable. There's around 20,000 African lions left. It may sound like a big number, but these guys only inhabit around 8% of their historic range in the wild. One situation that they struggle with is human-wildlife conflict, so the encroachment of the agricultural industry, that sort of thing that's taking over their habitat puts them in conflict with people, as well as, of course, poaching and the exotic pet trade. Boomer, in particular, as well as our lioness Pumpkin, both came to us as rescues from the exotic pet trade. Boomer's story has a bit of a twist. So he was found after escaping from his private owner by police in Quebec. So he is the only animal here at the Greater Vancouver Zoo who has not only spent a night in jail, but also has a mugshot. Now on my right hand side is Hannah. She's our Siberian tigress. She is 13 years old, which is up there in years for Siberian tigers. In the wild they live between 12 and 15, but in captivity they can make it to their mid-20s. So she's got plenty of years on her. Now, Siberian tigers, of all the tiger subspecies, live in the coldest parts of any tiger subspecies, and Hannah here has some great adaptations for that. She's got a much thicker, fluffier coat than other types of tigers. She's got really big feet that could act as snowshoes if she's trekking through the snow. And interesting thing about her too, that bright orange coat may not seem like it's great for camouflaging, but to the prey of tigers, like wild deer, wild boar, their color receptors in their eyes interpret that orange as green. So she blends in perfectly in her environment. Now what the keeper just tossed her there is an antler, and it's a form of enrichment for them. This is her fast day. A little bit of perfume, make it a little more interesting. And enrichment is super important for animals in captivity. It helps them engage their senses, engage them mentally, engage them physically, helps them engage in natural behaviors. So for her, just like she would in the wild, she's investigating a piece of another animal, she's sniffing it, she's finding out where that animal was from, so really engaging for her. Another form of enrichment that we do here that combines with medical treatment is target training, which you'll see there's a target stick there. It allows our animals to participate in their own health care. So it's all choice-based. The animals have the option to participate or not participate. But using the target, we can get a good look in their mouths, see that all their teeth and things are correct. We can have them follow along the fence to see that their mobility is correct, get a better look at their stomach, all their joints. Really great way to make sure their animals are in tip-top shape. It also helps the keepers build a personal relationship with the animals they work with, because recognizing what is normal versus abnormal behavior is super important. Now, white lions are not a separate species of lion. They're simply a color morph, just like white tigers. But the white lions, we've only so far seen the color morph in the African kinds of lions, and we can trace it to the Timbavati region. So we know that our trio of white lions, their ancestry can be traced back there.
Test. Okay. Good. Okay, I'll do big man. Hey, Boomer.
Now, in terms of being able to support big cats and their conservation, you've taken a great first step by visiting the Greater Vancouver Zoo today, because we are an accredited facility, and the price of your daily admission ticket not only goes to helping take care of all these wonderful animals, but as well it goes towards education and conservation resources. You can also support groups like Panthera, the World Wildlife Fund, which have boots in the ground in parts of Africa where these guys live in the wild, that not only help their conservation, but work with local communities to help mitigate that human-wildlife conflict. Another step that's really important is when you're online, as social media plays a big role in all of our lives today, is being conscious of the kind of animal content that you consume. So seeing videos of people holding lion and tiger cubs, playing with them, freehand contact, those are indicative of non-reputable facilities and not good situations for these guys. So being conscious and not liking, not sharing content that misrepresents our relationship with big cats.
Okay, Tess, I know you're ready. Up! Good girl. Fantastic. Oh, get that piece.
You'll notice
Oh my
too
God.
here as an example,
My
we're
goodness.
not handing the meat to them with our bare hands through the fence. We're always using something that puts a distance between us and the big cats. And that's one thing that is part of our accreditation, is having responsible and safe practices when it comes to working with our animals.
No,
Our
not
keepers
you.
are never in the same spot as any of our large carnivores.
Boom.
Now, Boomer does have that big iconic mane, which is a staple feature of male lions. It's not just for show, it plays an important role in protection. So if male lions are tussling with one another, where the mane is located protects the vital regions of their throat and their neck so that claws can't reach in as deep. As well, the saying that tall, dark, and handsome, it plays the same role with big cats. Its studies have found that lionesses prefer males with long, darker colored manes. You'll notice our other male lion, Castle, he is lacking his mane, and that is simply because he was neutered, so the
Can we do an up?
testosterone that would normally go towards growing that big mane just was not there.
Can we do an up? No? Okay. Can we do it down? Oh.
So here we can see, having him in these different positions, we can see how his mobility is doing, seeing that all of his joints are in order. And it's especially important when we have animals that are older, on the older side, to make sure that they are still in good condition.
Right here. Right here. Can we do an open? Open. Good boy.
Now, does anyone have any questions about our big cats so far?
No, where are you going?
Yeah.
Hi.
These ones, so Boomer is just turned 17 years old, and Tess and her siblings are 8 years old.
One more look.
Well, in the wild, 8 is definitely on the upper side of a lion's lifespan, but in captivity, they can live to their late teens, early 20s.
Everything looks good. I don't know why he's always paired that with a growl. Previous trainer.
Well, we do love his voice.
Can we do a little jar? Do they get chicken for all their meals?
No, so they do actually get fed a variety of meat. Chicken is often used as the enrichment meat, but they get a whole variety.
Okay.
Would you say they have any preference on food, these two?
Boomer likes red meat. That's his favorite. But Tess will eat literally anything. Including fire hose. No problem. Okay, I actually want Tess this time.
Any other questions?
That wasn't your name. I wasn't calling you. Okay.
What year was Boomer found on their street?
So that's a good question. So Boomer's story starts all the way back in 2007 with a man in Ontario. And back then, the laws pertaining to exotic pets were not nearly as robust in Canada. In fact, Boomer's story is instrumental to those laws being looked at and changed. And so what ended up happening was footage came out of Boomer's owner having him around their children. And CPS was the one that stepped in and said, hey, you cannot have an apex predator around your children. So Boomer got passed off to another individual who kept him in a basement suite, entirely inappropriate place for a lion. Boomer was able to escape from there and was subsequently discovered by police. Now, after his little stay in jail, Boomer spent a little bit of time at the Granby Zoo in Quebec, but they already had a full pride of lions. A pride of lions is, of course, made up of between 1 and 3 related males. So Boomer, since he wasn't related to anybody there, would not be welcomed in that pride. But here at the Greater Vancouver Zoo, we had a spot for a male lion, and so we welcomed Boomer over, and he has lived here ever since. And of course, his old age is a testament to the care that he has received here. Special fact as well about lion's roar, if anybody is local here. If the area here was as flat as it is in the savannah, when Boomer does his big, powerful, booming roar, you would be able to hear it all the way in Fort Langley. Hannah's having the time of her life.
That's awesome.
Big cats have incredibly good senses of smell, so any enrichment that has a new smell for them is something they're really going to dig into.
Yeah.
As an example, there was a study done once working with jaguars in South America, and they discovered that there's a certain kind of cologne that jaguars are quite fond of. So the researcher was followed quite closely by a wild jaguar. Another cool thing about Hannah I'll mention is you notice the white spots on the back of her ears? Those are called eye spots, and you'll see that on a couple animals if you look at their fur. It essentially acts as a way for her to feel like she has the upper hand on other carnivores. So they'll see that and interpret them as a pair of eyes, and so they're more likely to avoid her because they think they've already been spotted. And while I do not recommend it, if you were to shave Hannah, you would find that the iconic stripes are also present on her skin as well. Now, Siberian tigers are one of the most endangered subspecies of tigers. There's only around 500 left in the wild, and the main threat for them, as opposed to lions, is specifically poaching. In several cultures, the bones, the organs, the fur of tigers is thought to have potential medicinal properties, which they do not. So one of the best ways that you can help wild tigers is by never purchasing products made from parts of tigers. There are 9 modern subspecies of tigers, the Siberian, of course, being one of them. 3 of them, though, are unfortunately already extinct. The Caspian tiger, which was the easternmost population, as well as the Javan tiger and the Balinese tiger. And all the remaining subspecies are endangered. As for lions, there's the, of course, African lion, but there's also the Asiatic lion, which today is only found in the Gir National Park in India. And I believe the most recent consensus said there was only around 500 of them left as well. Once again, are there any questions I can help anybody out with pertaining to our big cats or any animals here at the Greater Vancouver Zoo?
They have the same diet.
Do they have the same diet
What do you mean?
between the lions and the tigers? In captivity or in the wild?
Captain.
In captivity? Actually,
Not generally. She refuses to eat fish though, so at all. So sometimes what we do is we will, especially like with Boomerie's getting a little older, we'll sneak a little bit of salmon in there every now and then. For absolutely not. She'll go off food for like 24 hours if you do that. She's like, not a fish lady.
in the wild, they're both generally hunting ungulates, so hoofed animals, but of course, in Africa, more gazelles, more wildebeest, more zebra, as opposed to in Russia, more wild deer and wild boar.
Okay, sorry.
Alrighty, well, if there's no other questions, I want to give a big thank you to everybody for hanging out here at our Big Cat Spotlight. Our next animal spotlight will be at 2 o'clock with our gray wolves, but I will also hang around here if there are any other questions. Thank you.
Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah,